Let me start with a simple truth. Most people are not lazy. They are waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel motivated, waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect time, the perfect push. And while they wait, life moves on. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into years. And one day they wake up and say, "Where did my life go?" Here's the danger. Motivation does not knock on the door. If it did, most people wouldn't even be home. If you wait for motivation, you will spend your life waiting. Let me tell you a short story. When I was younger, I once asked a successful man a simple question. I said, "How do you stay motivated every day?" He smiled, not a big smile, a quiet smile. And he said, "I don't." That surprised me. He said, "Some days I feel tired. Some days I feel unsure. Some days I don't feel like doing much at all." Then he leaned forward and said something that changed my life. I don't wait for motivation. I schedule discipline. That day, I learned something powerful. Successful people do not feel better before they act. They act, and then they feel better. Action often comes before confidence. Now listen closely. One day, life will ask you a serious question, not with words. With silence, it will ask, "What did you do with your ability?" And that question will not care about excuses. It will not care that you were tired, or afraid, or unmotivated. It will only look at results. Here's the truth that changes everything. You don't need motivation to change your life. You need a decision that says, "I will act even when I don't feel like it." Because courage is not loud. Discipline is not exciting. Growth is not always comfortable. But regret is painful. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. The moment you move, even a little, life moves with you. And suddenly, motivation shows up not as a feeling, but as momentum. Most people believe motivation is the starting point. They think one day they will wake up feeling strong, excited, ready, and then life will finally begin. But life does not work that way. If motivation were reliable, everyone would be successful. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Motivation is not something you wait for. It is something you create. It is not the engine that starts the car. It is the smoke that comes out after the engine is already running. Think about how your mornings really go. You don't feel motivated to get out of bed. You get out of bed first, and then the energy comes. You don't feel motivated to exercise. You move your body, and then the motivation shows up. Action always comes before emotion. The mind follows the body. That is how we are wired. Waiting to feel motivated is like standing in the rain and waiting to feel dry before you walk inside. People say, "I'll start when I feel inspired." But inspiration visits the busy. It avoids the idle. Life rewards motion, not intention. The smallest action sends a signal to your brain that you are serious. And that signal creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief creates motivation. That is the order, whether we like it or not. There was a time in my life when I waited too. I waited for confidence. I waited for clarity. I waited for the perfect mood. And while I waited, nothing changed. The day things shifted was not the day I felt powerful. It was the day I felt tired of standing still. I took one small step with shaking hands and a doubtful mind, and something surprising happened. I felt better after I moved, not before. That one step didn't change everything, but it changed me, and that was enough to begin. Motivation is a reward. It is what shows up after you prove to yourself that you can act without it. Discipline is the bridge. When you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you build trust with your own soul. And trust is fuel. Each small win whispers, "I can do this." Soon, that whisper becomes a voice. That voice becomes energy. And that energy is what people call motivation. Waiting feels safe, but it is dangerous. It slowly convinces you that you are powerless. Action, even imperfect action, restores your power. You don't need to see the whole path. You only need to take the next step. Life does not ask you to be fearless. It asks you to move, despite the fear. So stop asking, "How do I get motivated?" Ask a better question, "What small action can I take right now?" Because the moment you move, the fog begins to lift. And in that movement, motivation is born. Many people think confidence is a requirement. They believe they must first feel sure, strong, and fearless before they take a step forward. But confidence is not a permission slip. It is a reward. It shows up after you move, not before. Waiting for confidence is like waiting for light while refusing to turn on the switch. When you watch successful people, it looks like they always know what they are doing, but that is an illusion created by repetition. In the beginning, everyone is uncertain. Everyone doubts. Everyone wonders if they are enough. The difference is not bravery. The difference is movement. They act while their voice shakes. They try while their hands tremble. And with every attempt, something shifts inside. Clarity works the same way. Most people say, "I'll start when things become clear." But clarity is not found in thinking. It is found in doing. The mind becomes clearer after the body takes action. You don't discover direction by standing still. You discover it by walking and adjusting. Life corrects you while you move, never while you wait. Think of a child learning to walk. The child does not wait to feel confident. The child stands, falls, cries, and stands again. Confidence comes from survival, from realizing, "I fell, but I'm still here." Every step builds proof, and proof builds belief. Adults forget this process. We want guarantees before we begin, but life offers no guarantees, only opportunities to grow stronger. There was a moment when I stood at the edge of something new. I didn't feel ready. I felt exposed. My mind gave me 1,000 reasons to wait. But I learned something important that day. Readiness is a decision, not a feeling. I stepped forward without answers, and the answers met me on the way. Each small action cleared a little fog. Each attempt sharpened my understanding. Soon, what once felt confusing began to feel familiar. Confidence is built in layers. One action creates a little courage. A little courage invites the next action. And suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes routine. The secret is not bold moves. It is repeated moves. Small steps taken daily do more than big steps taken once. Fear will always speak first. That is its job. But it does not get the final word unless you give it permission. When you act despite fear, you teach your mind a powerful lesson. I am capable. That lesson changes how you see yourself. And how you see yourself determines how far you will go. So stop waiting to feel confident. Stop waiting to feel clear. Start where you are, with what you have. Move first. Let confidence catch up. Let clarity unfold. Because the path reveals itself only to those who are brave enough to take the first step. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. Some days the sky is clear. Some days it is heavy and dark. If your progress depends on motivation, your life will move only when the mood is right. That is why discipline matters. Discipline does not care how you feel. It only cares about what you decided. Discipline is not harsh. It is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is the quiet agreement you make with yourself that says, "I will do what needs to be done, even when it is uncomfortable." That agreement is what separates wishful thinking from real progress. Motivation may inspire you to start, but discipline is what keeps you going when inspiration fades. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up feeling motivated to do it. You do it because it is part of who you are. That is the power of discipline. When something becomes a habit, it no longer drains your energy. It protects it. Discipline turns effort into routine and routine into identity. Most people wait for a strong feeling to push them forward. Disciplined people rely on structure. They set a time, they show up, they act, even on the days when everything inside says no, especially on those days, because those are the days that shape character. Anyone can act when it feels good. Growth happens when it does not. There were moments in my life when I didn't feel inspired at all. No fire, no excitement, just responsibility. I learned to move anyway, and something interesting happened. The act of keeping my word gave me strength. Each time I followed through, I trusted myself more, and that trust created a quiet confidence that motivation alone could never give. Discipline is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. At first, it feels heavy, it feels uncomfortable, but over time, it becomes natural. What once felt hard becomes normal, and what becomes normal becomes powerful. Motivation asks, "Do I feel like it?" Discipline asks, "What did I commit to?" One question keeps you stuck. The other moves your life forward. Discipline also protects your future self. It is a form of kindness. You are doing today what tomorrow will thank you for. You are choosing progress over comfort, direction over distraction, purpose over impulse. When motivation disappears, discipline remains. It is steady. It is reliable. It is available every day. You don't need to feel strong to be disciplined. You just need to decide. And when discipline leads long enough, motivation eventually follows, but even if it doesn't, your life still moves forward. That is the quiet power of discipline. It does not shout, it does not rush. It simply shows up, and in the end, it always wins. Big change is rarely loud. It usually enters quietly through small choices that seem almost too simple to matter. People underestimate small actions because they do not create instant results. They want transformation to arrive with fireworks. But life works in whispers before it works in thunder. A small action may not change your life today, but it changes times you asterisk. And that is where everything begins. When you take even the smallest step forward, something inside you wakes up. The body moves, the mind follows, and emotion begins to shift. Energy is not something you wait for. Energy is something you generate through motion. Think about a parked car. It does not respond to the steering wheel. The wheels only turn when the car is moving. Your life works the same way. Direction appears after motion. One page read creates curiosity. One walk creates clarity. One honest conversation creates relief. These small actions release emotional energy, and emotional energy creates momentum. There were days when I felt drained before I even started. The mind was heavy, the heart was quiet, but I learned a simple truth. I didn't need to feel energetic to begin. I needed to begin to feel energetic. So I did one small thing, not everything, just one. And that one thing cracked the door open. Through that crack came light. Momentum does not arrive fully formed, it grows. It starts fragile, almost invisible, but when you protect it with consistency, it becomes powerful. That is why small actions matter more than big intentions. Big intentions often stay in the mind. Small actions move into reality. Each small win sends a message to your nervous system, I am moving forward. That message reduces fear. It softens resistance. It builds emotional safety. And when the body feels safe, energy flows. Motivation feels natural. You are no longer forcing yourself. You are cooperating with yourself. People often wait for a surge of energy to begin. But energy is a response, not a requirement. Action is the spark. Emotion is the flame. When you understand this, you stop arguing with your feelings and start leading them. Small actions also lower pressure. They remove the need to be perfect. You are not trying to change your whole life. You are only trying to change the next 5 minutes. That is manageable. That is human. And that is how lasting change is built. Over time, these small actions stack. 1 becomes 2, 2 become 10, and suddenly what once felt impossible feels familiar. The emotional weight lifts because progress is visible. You can feel yourself moving, growing, becoming. Never underestimate the power of a small step taken consistently. It is not small to your future. It is not small to your confidence. It is not small to your identity. Small actions create emotional energy. And emotional energy, when guided, can change the direction of a life. Waiting feels comfortable. It gives the illusion of safety. You tell yourself you are being patient, when in reality you are being paused. The danger of waiting is not that nothing happens. The danger is that life keeps moving while you stand still. Potential quietly leaks away, not in dramatic moments, but in ordinary days that pass unused. Most people do not fail because they tried and lost. They fail because they never fully stepped into the arena. Waiting becomes a habit. You wait to feel ready. You wait for approval. You wait for circumstances to change. And over time, waiting trains the mind to avoid responsibility. It whispers, later is safer than now. But later is a lie that steals years. I have seen talented people wait themselves into regret. They had ability, they had ideas, they had opportunity, but they kept delaying action, thinking the right moment would eventually arrive. It never did. Not because they were unlucky, but because the right moment is created, not discovered. Waiting slowly erodes belief. Each day you delay, you send a message to yourself that you cannot be trusted to act. That message weakens confidence. It feeds doubt. Soon even simple steps feel heavy. The mind begins to associate action with fear and comfort with inaction, and just like that, potential becomes a prisoner of hesitation. There was a time when I waited too. I told myself I was preparing, I was thinking, I was learning, but deep down I was afraid of failing, afraid of being seen, afraid of being wrong. One day I realized something painful but freeing. Waiting was costing me more than failure ever could. Failure teaches. Waiting only drains. Action breaks the spell. The moment you move, even imperfectly, the mind shifts. Fear loses its grip because you are no longer imagining danger, you are experiencing reality. Most of what we fear never happens. It lives only in the waiting. Life rewards those who respond, not those who hesitate. Opportunities do not knock twice. They whisper once and move on. Waiting tells life, I am not ready. Action tells life, teach me as I go. Waiting is silent, but its consequences are loud. One day it shows up as frustration, another day as regret, and eventually as the painful question, what if I had started sooner? That question has no good answer. Movement restores power. It reminds you that you are not stuck. You are simply paused. And you can unpause at any moment. You don't need to feel brave. You just need to stop waiting. The world belongs to those who step forward before they feel ready, not because they are special, but because they choose motion over comfort. And that choice, repeated, changes everything. Many people search for momentum as if it is hiding somewhere, waiting to be discovered. They think one day they will wake up in the zone and everything will finally flow. But momentum is not found. It is constructed, brick by brick, step by step. Momentum does not arrive before effort. It shows up because of effort. It is the reward for consistency, not the cause of it. Waiting for momentum is like waiting for strength before lifting the weight. Strength comes from lifting, not wishing. In the beginning, movement feels heavy. Progress feels slow. Results feel invisible. That is why most people quit early. They mistake the early stage for failure. But the early stage is simply the warm-up. Nothing is broken. Nothing is wrong. Momentum has not yet been given time to grow. Think of pushing a large wheel. The first push feels useless. The second push feels harder. The third push still shows nothing. But if you keep pushing, suddenly the wheel moves. And once it moves, it wants to keep moving. That is momentum. Invisible at first, powerful later. Momentum feeds on repetition. The same small action done again and again creates rhythm. Rhythm creates flow. Flow reduces resistance. And when resistance drops, progress accelerates. What once required effort begins to require maintenance. There were seasons when I felt like nothing was happening. I showed up, I worked, I stayed consistent, and the results were quiet. But beneath the surface, something was forming. Skills were sharpening, confidence was layering, discipline was strengthening. Momentum was being built, even when I couldn't feel it. Momentum is loyal to those who show up without applause. It avoids those who wait for excitement. It is created by ordinary days handled with commitment. Boring days, repetitive days, days where nothing dramatic happens except consistency. Once momentum exists, it changes how you feel. Effort feels lighter. Focus becomes natural. Motivation appears more often. But none of that happens without the early work. The work that feels unrewarded. The work that feels unseen. Momentum also protects you. When life becomes difficult, momentum carries you forward when motivation disappears. It keeps you moving even when emotions fluctuate. That is why it is so valuable. It turns progress into habit instead of struggle. If you want momentum, stop looking for it. Build it. Do the small thing today, repeat it tomorrow, guard it the next day. Momentum does not respond to intensity. It responds to consistency. Once it exists, it feels like magic. But it is not magic. It is math. Effort multiplied by time. Asterisk, asterisk. Key point 5. Waiting is the silent killer of potential 500 words, same flow and rhythm. Asterisk, asterisk. Waiting feels harmless. It feels responsible. It feels like patience. But waiting has a quiet way of stealing lives without making noise. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you, not now. Later will be better. And later slowly becomes never. Most people don't fail loudly. They fade quietly. They delay the call. They postpone the dream. They push the decision to tomorrow. And tomorrow keeps moving further away. Potential doesn't disappear overnight. It leaks away, day by day, through hesitation. Waiting gives comfort to fear. Fear loves delay because delay requires no courage. While you wait, nothing is demanded from you. No risk, no embarrassment, no effort. But comfort has a price. The price is growth. And over time, comfort turns into regret. There was a time I waited because I wanted certainty. I wanted guarantees. I wanted to know I wouldn't fail. But life never made that deal with anyone. Life says, move, and I will meet you. It never says, wait, and I will reward you. Waiting slowly teaches you a dangerous lesson that you are powerless. Each delay reinforces the idea that you need something outside yourself before you can begin. More time, more confidence, more permission, and the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to move, because doubt grows stronger in stillness. Think about water that doesn't move. It becomes stagnant. It loses freshness. It breeds decay. Motion keeps water clean. Motion keeps life alive. Your potential works the same way. It needs movement to stay sharp. Waiting also lies about readiness. It says one day you will feel ready. But readiness is not a feeling that arrives. It is a muscle that develops through use. The people who look ready are simply the people who started before they felt ready. Every dream you have responds to action, not intention. Intention sounds nice. Action changes things. Waiting protects your ego, but it starves your future. And one day, you realize time did not stop to wait with you. The saddest moment is not failure. The saddest moment is realizing you never truly tried, that you stood at the edge of your ability and chose comfort over courage. Waiting makes that choice for you, slowly, silently. The moment you stop waiting, something powerful happens. You reclaim authority over your life. You say, I may not know everything, but I will begin. And that decision restores dignity. It wakes up strength you forgot you had. Waiting feels safe, but it is the most dangerous habit of all. Action is risky, but it is alive, and only the living grow. Asterisk, asterisk. Key point 6. Momentum is built, not found 500 words. Same flow and rhythm. Asterisk, asterisk. Many people search for momentum as if it is hiding somewhere, waiting to be discovered. They think one day they will wake up in the zone and everything will finally flow. But momentum is not found. It is constructed, brick by brick, step by step. Momentum does not arrive before effort. It shows up because of effort. It is the reward for consistency, not the cause of it. Waiting for momentum is like waiting for strength before lifting the weight. Strength comes from lifting, not wishing. In the beginning, movement feels heavy, progress feels slow, results feel invisible. That is why most people quit early. They mistake the early stage for failure. But the early stage is simply the warm-up. Nothing is broken. Nothing is wrong. Momentum has not yet been given time to grow. Think of pushing a large wheel. The first push feels useless. The second push feels harder. The third push still shows nothing. But if you keep pushing, suddenly the wheel moves. And once it moves, it wants to keep moving. That is momentum. Invisible at first, powerful later. Momentum feeds on repetition. The same small action done again and again creates rhythm. Rhythm creates flow. Flow reduces resistance. And when resistance drops, progress accelerates. What once required effort begins to require maintenance. There were seasons when I felt like nothing was happening. I showed up, I worked, I stayed consistent, and the results were quiet. But beneath the surface, something was forming. Skills were sharpening. Confidence was layering. Discipline was strengthening. Momentum was being built, even when I couldn't feel it. Momentum is loyal to those who show up without applause. It avoids those who wait for excitement. It is created by ordinary days handled with commitment. Boring days, repetitive days, days where nothing dramatic happens except consistency. Once momentum exists, it changes how you feel. Effort feels lighter. Focus becomes natural. Motivation appears more often. But none of that happens without the early work. The work that feels unrewarded. The work that feels unseen. Momentum also protects you. When life becomes difficult, momentum carries you forward when motivation disappears. It keeps you moving even when emotions fluctuate. That is why it is so valuable. It turns progress into habit instead of struggle. If you want momentum, stop looking for it. Build it. Do the small thing today. Repeat it tomorrow. Guard it the next day. Momentum does not respond to intensity. It responds to consistency. Once it exists, it feels like magic. But it is not magic. It is math. Effort multiplied by time. Asterisk, asterisk. Key point 7. One decision today can change the direction of your life. 500 words, same flow and rhythm. Asterisk, asterisk. Life rarely changes in one dramatic moment, but it oftentimes turns times in one quiet decision. a decision so small it almost feels insignificant. Yet that decision alters the path, and over time, a new destination appears. People overestimate time and underestimate choice. They think change takes forever, but direction changes instantly. The moment you decide, the future bends, not all at once, but steadily. There was a moment when I chose differently than I had before. No applause, no certainty, just a clear inner voice saying, "This ends here." That decision didn't fix everything, but it closed one door and opened another, and that was enough. Every habit begins with a decision. Every new identity begins with a choice. You do not wake up disciplined. You decide to act disciplined today. You do not become confident overnight. You decide to show up despite fear. The power of decision is that it removes negotiation. Before a decision, the mind argues. After a decision, the mind obeys. Decision simplifies life. It reduces noise. It creates clarity because it commits energy in one direction. Many people live tired, not because life is hard, but because they are undecided, half in, half out. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Decision ends that tension. It aligns effort. It focuses strength. One decision today may feel small, but tomorrow it becomes a pattern. Patterns become habits. Habits become character, and character determines destiny. That is how big change really happens. You don't need to decide your whole future. You only need to decide your next action. Will you move or delay? Will you act or wait? That choice shapes the next hour, and the next hour shapes the next year. Decision is not about feeling fearless. It is about choosing direction even while fear is present. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is commitment in spite of it. Every life you admire is the result of thousands of decisions made consistently in one direction. No one drifts into excellence. They decide their way there. So don't ask what your life will look like someday. Ask what you are deciding today. Because today is not small. Today is the steering wheel. One decision, one step, one shift. That is all it takes to begin a new direction. So here is my challenge to you. Do one small thing today, not tomorrow. Today, one page, one walk, one decision, one honest step forward. Do not wait to feel ready, because readiness comes after action. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day.